Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the first module of brain optimization. So, the context of this is basically, we'll start with the question, why would you want to optimize your brain? What are the benefits of optimizing one of the most powerful organs in your body, right? When we think about the brain, I like to think of it as hardware. So, our mindset, our thought patterns, our emotions, all of these things, they have energetic properties that are linked to hardware, right? So if you think of a thought like a thinking pattern, it's, kind of etheric, it's amorphous. But when your brain works better, i.e., you have some coffee in the morning, right, you can think a lot clearer, right? And it's those neurons and those synaptic connections that facilitate your brain and your mind to be able to work at a higher capacity, right? Your brain shares a lot of similarities with the computer. So your biological computer, if you can optimize it, can work a lot faster. You can have quicker memory recollection. You can have greater willpower. Your reasoning skills increase. Your ability to use things like intuition, all of these different sensory abilities that are components of your mind are drastically enhanced by enhancing what I call, the hardware of the mind, which is the brain. So in order to optimize the brain, there's really three core elements that we want to focus on. And the first element, one of the most important ones, is inflammation reduction. So when we look at what inflammation is essentially when we have stress on the body will actually swell that area in order to get more blood and nutrients and resources to repair that, right? So when we think about working out and we have acute inflammation after we've just done, like say you do a bench press, you do a squat, you're like sore the next day and you're kind of locked up, it's because your body has shuttled more inflammation to that aspect or area of your body in order to create more volume in terms of blood and nutrients and things being able to flood that area and repair that area. So inflammation within itself is crucial for us being healthy, but what we want to look at reducing is chronic inflammation. So chronic inflammation is the inflammation that stays with you for years unnecessarily, right? So when you have somebody who's like, I've been feeling this way forever, right? It shouldn't be that way. Inflammation should come in, it should do its job, it should repair, and then it should go back to homeostasis. So anytime the brain is overinflamed, you're going to have, haziness, you're going to not think clearly, you're going to wake up in the morning and feel groggy. These are all signs of inflammation. So the primary way to combat inflammation, there's many ways to do it, but my personal favorite is ketosis and fasting. So when you take a break from eating super sugary foods or you take a break from eating at all, and you can get past that window where your body kind of burns out all the sugars in it, what it does is it goes into a repair protocol, basically meaning that your body switches from burning sugars, burning all of these fuels, and basically building to stripping and cleaning, right? So what happens is a lot of times when we have inflammation, our body's producing millions and millions of cells in different areas of our body, especially our brain. And what happens is as we age, those cells, a portion of them can become misshapen. So like say you're making a protein cell. You make 100 protein cells a day. 10 of those protein cells are misshapen, right? What causes inflammation is a buildup of all of these unwanted things. So when you fast and when you go into processes like ketosis, it gives your body the mechanistic ability to go through and kind of pull out all of those misshapen proteins, all of those dead cells, all of those different things that it hasn't really gotten around to clearing out yet. And when we think of chronic inflammation, being chronically inflamed basically means that that inflammation has overstayed its welcome. So by fasting and kind of purifying that system, your body diverts energy because when we eat, it takes a lot of blood and nutrients and things like that to actually metabolize and then not only metabolize food, but then restructure it and send all of those proteins, fats, and carbohydrates to areas of our body. It also takes energy to convert the molecular structure of what we eat into the proper components to be compatible with the human body. Think about, if you eat a banana, that banana has to go through a metabolic process to convert itself into a bioavailable sugar that our body can use, right? So every time you're eating, what you're doing is you're taking energy and resources to break down, remold, and alchemize those things into your body. So the basic idea behind fasting and ketosis is if you can, and you don't have to do it every day, you don't have to be a psycho about it, but if you have a couple of instances throughout the month where you really fast and you do some, you get into ketosis for, just a little bit, what'll happen is your body can kind of get to some of those backlog tasks in terms of pulling out all of the inflammation. And the inflammation is basically what this needs to be gut health. The inflammation is basically what is causing a lot of the issues. So if we can get that inflammation out of the brain, you're going to experience immediately a huge boost in your cognitive ability, right? You'll notice this. If you fast for a day, your brain will work significantly better. And it's just because you gave it time to basically clean itself, right? You didn't even have to do anything crazy. So the second part of this here is what fasting and ketosis can do for you is it will also clean out your gut. So your gut biome is filled with different bacterias and all sorts of craziness. And what's really interesting about the gut is that gut-brain connection is so strong that depending on what you eat, the different types of bacteria that are in your gut that are designed to essentially break down the types of foods that you're eating, your gut and your brain are so intrinsically connected that the flora of your gut will send signals to almost try and hijack your brain to get you to eat more of the different things that keep that bacteria alive. It's really crazy. So if you have, a classic gut health issue that a lot of people have are candidas, and candidas basically survive on sugar. So if you have a high sugar, high processed sugar diet, your gut bacteria will produce what's called candida, and basically those candida need the sugars to survive, and because the gut is so linked to the brain, you'll have really high levels of sugar cravings. So what you can do through ketosis and fasting is you can kind of prune all of that bullshit out of your gut, and what that will do is it will drastically pull down the levels of basically signaling that your gut is sending to your brain, telling you, hey, I need to eat this, I need to eat that, and your cravings will go away. And if you think about your brain as a computer, if your brain is constantly being hit with these little pop-up screens of like, hey, go do this, go do that, go do that, and you're like trying to go to work, but you have all of these signals in the back of your brain telling you to do a bunch of craziness, then it's like, you want to shut down, you want to use Taskmaster and you want to shut down all the tasks in the background, basically. So when we look at brain optimization, these are the three core elements. It's inflammation reduction, the process is ketosis and fasting, and gut health is supreme. Once these three optimizations are made, there's lots of other different things that you could do, such as once you clean your gut, then you can put in really good probiotics. You want to be careful with probiotics, though, because probiotics basically grow everything in your gut. So if you have candida, if you have some craziness, that will grow along with it too. So you really want to clean everything out. Then you can put in really good probiotics that will help support that brain function. Amazing supplements on top of that at a base level are creatine. Creatine is actually categorized as a nootropic, which is really interesting because a lot of people use it for muscle recovery, but what it does is it basically stores more water in your body, and it also stores more water in your brain. So having, a really good serving of creatine every morning will essentially help your brain retain more water, which will have a really good cognitive impact. As we go further down this train, many people like to do ketogenic dieting, including myself, at least intermittently, because what you can do through ketogenic dieting is you can change the food that your brain runs off of to a much more optimized food. So when you eat sugars and carbs and stuff like that, they're really good for you, but what they do is they basically spike your blood sugar and then they come back down. So if you notice when you eat a carbohydrate-rich meal, what happens is you'll have this really good feeling and then it'll peak and then it'll come back down. The idea behind having more fats and reducing carbs, not necessarily a ton, but cutting out things like grains and some of these other carbs that are more like agricultural and replacing them with fruits and things like that, is having your body dip into that ketosis state is it basically takes the brain away from burning those sugars, and then it puts it into a state of ketosis in which it burns fats, which changes the molecule that it runs off of. It works on something called beta hydroxybutyrate instead of glucose. So it gives your brain a reprieve from running off of sugars and puts it into a new molecule that it's running off of that is the byproduct of ketosis, meaning that basically when your cells are breaking down fats and they're producing ketones and all these different things, your brain actually switches the molecular food that it runs off of, and it's like a natural Adderall. You feel really on point, especially if you have inflammation reduction, especially if you have a gut that's really cleaned out and healthy. Everything works harmoniously and synergistically to just basically up the CPUs of your brain, right? So you want to hit it from multiple angles. And to me, this is one of the biggest levers for personal health that you can pull simply because you use your brain every fucking day. So if it's really on point and it feels great and you can think clearly, you're just a much more powerful person, in my opinion. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Definitely check out down below. I'll put some worksheets and stuff like that so you guys can optimize this for yourself really easy. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.